All right, well, what we're going to talk about now is how to pretty quickly identify 25 or more profitable ASINs that perfectly match your strategy and or niche selling on the Amazon platform in about 5 hours. Now, I'm a huge fan of using Keepa. It's one of the tools I leverage the most in our business. And so I do call this advanced sourcing methods using Keepa. It is one of the most powerful tools that we use in our business on a daily basis. And one of the things I really like about it is it gives us a different perspective of looking at all of the data on the Amazon platform. So we can effectively take a cross section of data, basically all the information about various listings on the platform based on criteria that we are going to enter into Keepa. And then the items that we're reviewing to find out if they're profitable or not, we know already meet most of the Keepa metrics, if not all of them, on the back end. And so we kind of take all of that work take all the guesswork out of it up front, and then just focus on sourcing. And sourcing is really what's going to drive your business forward in the early days. So the challenge in our business is finding profitable ASINs for the replens business. And this is what I was saying just a minute ago. The challenge, the sourcing actually is the engine that runs our business, especially in the early days. Once we've established a foundation of profitable ASINs that are part of our replen business, then we kind of shift from focusing on sourcing to focusing on managing and growing a business. So in the early days, we're focusing on sourcing. Once we achieve about a reasonable level, $10,000, $20,000 a month in sales, then we're shifting our focus to growth, scaling, and efficiency of your normal business as an entrepreneur would normally do, as opposed to how do we find things to sell. That really is, as you'll hear Jim say, and I've heard him say it multiple times, it's really the easiest part of this business is finding profitable things to sell. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. And I think I've found that most or many people believe that there's a secret method to sourcing and finding success on the Amazon platform. And they're not wrong. I mean, there is a secret, and I'm going to tell you that secret right now. Are you ready? It's called your mindset. In reality, the mechanics are only about 20% of this business, and the rest is mindset. So in the early days, we need to focus on the positives and shape our experience like Mr. Miyagi prunes his bonsai trees. Sometimes finding the right mindset is a simple shift in perspective, and I'm going to help give you some of that perspective today. So the solution to the challenge of finding profitable ASINs is advanced sourcing using Keepa, also known as the product finder, or also known as premium data access. Why not leverage the most fundamental tool that we already use in our business every day? There are no secrets here. Like I said, mindset and creativity are the key. I would suggest to you that these things are the most vital part of success in our business. The rest of what we do for our Amazon arbitrage business is really just mechanics. Mechanics alone, though, do not result in success. Everyone can figure out how to do this. In other words, find products to sell profitably on Amazon, but not everyone will have a successful business because of the mindset. The recipe for success is 80% mindset and 20% mechanics. We're going to focus a little bit on the mechanics today. So our goal is going to be to identify 25 or more profitable ASINs that perfectly match our strategy in less than 5 hours. I've broken this down into 5 milestones. First of all, we're going to create a list of 50 or less store IDs. This is called competitive analysis. Milestone number 2, we're going to create a list of 300 to 400 highly targeted ASINs using Keepa. Milestone 3, remove categories of products that you don't sell. Milestone 4, source the list in about 5 hours, or have someone else do it. Could be your virtual assistant, or it could be a contract laborer, it could be anything. And then milestone 5, improve your results with some tips and tricks I'll show you at the end. While the bulk of this hour will be spent on a specific set of mechanics, once you get the process down, it really does happen very quickly. The mindset portion is thinking about competitive analysis, as I mentioned a minute ago. And competitive analysis, to me, is like this. I'll give you a little bit of an analogy. If you owned and operated a kitchen store and a new kitchen store opened up across town, wouldn't you go check it out? If you were going to open a new kitchen store and you wanted to analyze the kitchen store market, wouldn't you go check out what kitchen stores were already out there? Because you don't want to necessarily be like every other kitchen store out there. You want to focus on the most profitable items and the items that your customers are most seeking out. So let's evaluate a large group of kitchen stores all across the country, take stock of what they have available, and then let's build our store selectively. Now, credit where credit's due. Danny Stock, one of the nicest guys I've met in this business, first opened my eyes to the power of using Keepa in this way. Milestone 1, create a list of 50 or less store IDs. And what we're going to do here is identify one or more listings in the Amazon catalog that match our Amazon strategy. What does this mean? For those of us doing arbitrage, whether retail or online, I want you to think of exclusive big box brands like Husky or Cobalt, Greenbrier, Kirkland, Great Value, Everspring, Trader Joe's, Walgreens, etc. There's a virtually endless supply of store brands that you'll be able to find. It even goes so far, it doesn't have to be a national. One of my favorite techniques is to use a regional store brand and help exploit all of the items that you can find within that store that are being sold on Amazon. Oh yeah. So an example here, you might find regional store brands from Meijer, Giant, H-E-B, Fred Meyer, Publix, etc. Wholesale accounts can also be exploited. Think about products that you may get from a wholesaler that you are aware other wholesalers may be selling. We can exploit those ASINs as well. The seed listings do not need to be profitable. And what I'm calling the seed listing here is a listing that has one of these big brands on it, like a big box brand name on it. And we're going to find all the different sellers, the store IDs that are selling those particular products. And then we're going to use those as the seed ASINs to build an overall list for us to source. Finding listings that may have many stores on them, so 40 or 50 sellers, does reduce the amount of upfront work required to create our initial list. Sometimes it's less fruitful in the end because we end up bringing in a lot of store IDs or doing competitive analysis on a lot of stores that are selling very, very competitive products. And I find that I'm much more successful in this method when I'm including smaller stores. So not the people who are likely to have wholesale accounts. They're kind of doing the same strategy that we are. Then we're going to create this list of store IDs from these listings, and we're going to put it into a CSV format. CSV stands for comma separated value. And this is actually a Keepa requirement. And there is an attachment that you can download here that has a little formula in a cell that will put all of the information we're going to gather, all of the store IDs, into a CSV format for you so that you can paste it directly into Keepa. And finally, I'm a huge fan of ASIN and their products. They have a free plugin called ASIN Fetcher, and it really makes this process much, much easier and efficient. Now, it's not required because you can manually make the list of store IDs and put them into the desired format, but I'm going to demonstrate using the plugin called ASIN Fetcher. I'm going to use these three ASINs as my seed ASINs for this exercise. Notice underneath the Husky bucket jockey listing with the price of $23, there's a gray box down below there. This is the AZ Insight plugin, and it contains a lot of useful information. First of all, the ASIN, then how many sales. This is an estimated value. It's a formula based on Keepa drops, which may or may not be 100% accurate, but it's relatively close. If you sold all 228, what would the monthly revenue be, and how long it's been on the platform, what the rank is in the category and the subcategory. And then what I have highlighted here in red, in that red box, is how many sellers are selling that product on the platform. In this case, we have 4 FBA sellers and 3 FBM sellers. That's a total of 7 sellers. And we know that Husky is a big box brand, Home Depot's brand. And so we're going to use this as one of our first 3 seed listings. The second listing we see here is Favorite Day. This is a Target brand of snacks. And this is the caramel cashew trail mix in a 37-ounce bucket. It's a big, heavy one, 2.31 pounds. Sells for $27. Again, I don't really care if these things are profitable right now. What I'm really trying to find is how many sellers are selling these items, and these are store-specific items. When they're store-specific, we know that they can only be bought from that store, and generally speaking, nobody's got a wholesale account for those items. Now, that doesn't mean that someone doesn't have a relationship with a store manager and might be getting these things at a discount from what we see on the shelf, but for the most part, there's no wholesale program that you can sign up for to get these at a discount. The Favorite Day listing has 11 FBA sellers and 2 FBM sellers for a total of 13. This is also a very nice moving product, 254 units a month. It's not, likely to attract a lot of attention because it's not moving thousands, but this is a great replen type item where, again, we don't need to sell this one, but it's going to lead us into other products that are sold from Target, just like the bucket jockey is going to lead us to other products that are sold from Home Depot. Finally, we have Trader Joe's. This is a seasoning salute, a Trader Joe's 21 seasoning salute 2-pack for $11.13. Notice what this one does when we look at the AZ Insight plugin box, 630 sales a month. This does get a little bit more visibility. The monthly revenue is the highest that we see here. It's been on the platform for a long time. It's an 11,779 rank in grocery, which is a very, very fast moving product, 925 rank in the subcategory, for a total of 28 sellers on these lists. On this particular listing. So I don't know, I'm not a huge Trader Joe's shopper, so I want to bring this in more as an example, but I know that there are a lot of people who sell Trader Joe's, and I'm going to show you how to find, rather than going into the store, picking up an item and seeing if it's for sale on Amazon, we can really sort of apply a spider effect that will show us a lot of Trader Joe's items that are already for sale on the platform. And then all we're going to do is check for profitability. Let's take a deeper dive on the Husky Bucket Jockey page, on the listing page. Now, the AZ Insight Pro plugin is what you see highlighted here in the orange box. So this is contains all of the information, much more detailed information, including the calculator, which is one of my favorite things. You can set up your custom costs in here for your prep. You can set up custom costs in here for your supplies. You can set up custom costs in here for your inbound transportation. I'm not trying to sell you on this tool, but I love it. So I don't think I've steered anyone wrong on this product yet. But the thing I really want to point out here is the orange box that says grab a list of Amazon sellers. This is actually a separate plugin, but it's also from the same manufacturer, developer, whatever, called ASIN Zen, and that's the little link you see on the right side of that orange box. And when you click on this, it's going to show us a listing of all of those. How many sellers did we say were on here? 7 people. We've got 3 FBMs and 4 FBAs. And it looks like this. So it pops up an additional in front of the product, this little page that shows you the seller name on the left, the seller ID in the second column, and then something that's relatively new for this plugin is the third column over here, which is the seller feedback count for 30 days and the seller feedback count for a lifetime. And this is going to help us identify some stores that we want to overlook, like I mentioned previously. Some stores who've got huge volume and may have, I'll say, relationships with store managers or whatnot, or they've got a lot of wholesale accounts probably. I don't want to try and shop their stores because I'm usually not going to be able to compete with the prices that they get. So in this example, I might consider excluding the seller name 3 Cats. I'm not 100% sure. I might take a look at kind of the things that they're selling. It's not unusual for someone to be doing retail online arbitrage and have that kind of feedback over a lifetime. It doesn't take that long to get to that level. If you're selling a reasonable amount of items, think if you were selling 3,000 items a month and you were getting a 5% return, a 2% return on your feedbacks, that's going to happen pretty quickly. But in this case, we've got 7 stores identified on the first listing, 13 on the second, 28 on the third. We're going to select the columns of store names and the store IDs, and we're going to copy that to our clipboard. So we can highlight, we can click and drag those 2 columns and then right click and copy, or we can click and drag those 2 columns and do Control C. We're going to put it on our clipboard, and then we're going to paste each of these groups of seller names and seller IDs into an Excel or a Sheets page. The Excel or Sheets page looks like this. Now, it's kind of an eye chart, doesn't necessarily tell us everything that's going on, but when we put all of those store IDs into column B, we would need to reformat that into a CSV, as I mentioned earlier. So hold on to your hats. We're going to get it a little bit geeky with Excel. But once we paste this list from the previous step right into the spreadsheet, starting in column A2, I've actually set up a formula in cell C1, which you see why there's data in C1, that's going to put the column of the store IDs into a CSV format. And you can download, as I mentioned earlier, a working copy of this spreadsheet in this module. So between the 3 listings, we came up with 48 store IDs in total, all of them pasted in here. We're going to format this into a CSV by pasting it into Excel. On row 2, in cell C1, I have this particular formula here, which is doing a text join. So it's looking at cells B2 through B51, and it's going to concatenate all that data with a comma in between, is what that means. And then once we have all the store IDs in C1, if you click into cell C1, all you see is a formula, but when you actually copy the data, so Control C or right click that and copy, it's going to copy the actual store IDs and the commas. And we have completed milestone 1 of creating a list of 50 or less store IDs. Let's take a look at milestone 2. We're going to now create a list of 300 to 400 highly targeted ASINs from that list of 50 store IDs, or about 50. So we're going to start with a very large list of products. The challenge here is that manually sourcing 15, 20,000 or more ASINs is actually going to want to make you quit the business. Ask me how I know. It's sort of like when you're thinking to yourself, what should I source today? And you just think, oh, I'm going to source peanuts, or I'm going to source plates, or I'm going to source sheets. You're kind of just wandering the wilderness there. And what we've done here, what we're going to do here is create a list of products that we're going to review that already meet our criteria and have a reasonable chance of being profitable. But we need to first slice and dice this huge list of ASINs down to a number that is not going to make us want to quit. So the solution here is going to be, let's use Keepa's premium data access tool to zero in on the perfect items that check all of our Keepa criteria. And I realize that everyone's business is a little bit different, and my Keepa criteria doesn't necessarily fit someone else's Keepa criteria. In fact, I could have multiple criterias or strategies that I'm using with Keepa to identify different types of items to sell. Some of these criteria include, what's the price point? What's the unit size? What's the sales velocity? Does the listing have a buy box? Does the listing have variations? Is Amazon a seller on the listing? How many new offers are there? What is the pick and pack fee? There's a virtually, it's not endless, it is finite, and I'll show you what that looks like here in a moment, but there are a ton of options for you to select when you're filtering data or filtering listings out of Keepa. So what we're going to do here to complete milestone number 2 is we're going to open Keepa.com. We're going to click on data, and then we're going to click on premium data access. This page can actually boggle a lot of minds, so I'm going to ask for your patience here as I just give you a kind of a high-level snapshot. I don't expect you to be able to zero in on specific items here. I want to show you how many different options are on this page and sort of where the sections are. And I'll give you a little bit closer view here in a couple of minutes, but you can see there's a whole bunch of switches, dials, buttons, and knobs that we can select in here that is going to really help us zero in on the types of products that we want to sell. So we're going to zero in on the first section here, which is to refine your search even more. And we're going to paste into this field, highlighted in red here, paste our seller IDs here. This is the CSV that we have on our clipboard that we created from our spreadsheet. And then after we press tab, we're going to see the number of results that already meet our criteria shown by Keepa in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. It looks like this, 7,278 products. Now, I'll tell you that's not necessarily a large amount of products. I've had search results of over 20,000 results to start off with. But in either case, if I had to go through 7,000 products, I would quit. If I have to go through 20,000 products, I would quit. So what we're going to do now is start paring down our results based on our preferences. And these are mine, one set of preferences for one of my strategies I'm going to share with you here. The first thing is right down in the section I was already in, I'm going to uncheck the box that says digital products because I don't sell digital products. This might be a digital download of music or a book or something like that. I don't sell any of that, so I don't want it cluttering my results. Truth be told, not a whole lot of digital products show up in most of the time in my results, but I do like to uncheck the box anyway. The very next section down is variations. Now, Keepa has gotten better, much, much better about providing information about variations on a listing. However, I'll tell you, there are so many listings out there that don't have variations that are profitable that I would exclude them for now. Until you become advanced at identifying the right types of products to sell, what size, what color, what shape, it's so easy just to select no variations. And when we do that, we will see these two things. We will have reduced our results from over 7,000 down to 4,100 or so results from Keepa that are so far meeting our criteria. We're going to continue to pare down the results based on our preferences. In this case, I'm going to fill in a little bit more information. The results are going to whittle down to 1,636. What I'm going to do is enter a sales rank drops number. This is, as Keepa will tell you, how many drops in a month does a product have. I'm looking for products that have had at least 10 drops in the last 30 days. You can choose a higher or a lower velocity if you're looking for items that move more quickly or more slowly. The next section is the availability of the Amazon offer. I don't like to compete with Amazon. I know that a lot of people do. I have competed with them in the past. Again, I'll suggest to you, there are so many available options on the platform that Amazon is not selling that you can take advantage of. So I prefer to remove all listings where Amazon would be a competitor. And the final section in this particular slide is the FBA pick and pack fee. I like to limit the size of items to large standard in my search results, or you can go completely wild here and set the criteria for oversize or for even small and light. Keep in mind the FBA fulfillment fees or pick and pack fees have been adjusted as of January 2022. And so a lot of items that may have been just under $6 previously now may be over $6. So you may need to play with this number a little bit as you are fine-tuning your results. What we see when we select or unselect all of these options is that our results does go down to 1,636. So we're getting closer. I still don't want to source 1,600 items, especially in one sitting. So we're going to scroll back to the top section of the product finder or the premium data access, and I want to set a buy box price. So why do I want to put a price in here? For me, this is maybe the most important part of using the Keepa advanced sourcing method. I don't like to sell items that are $10, $12, and $15. Generally speaking, an item that is priced that low, when it moves $1 or $2 in price, it completely can completely wipe out my profit and change something that may have been $1 profitable to $1 loss. And even though I may have only paid $2 or $3 for the item, so technically it may meet some of my other criteria around return on investment and stuff. I find that I like to have a lot more movement available to me. I like to mitigate my risk more than that. And for that reason, I'm going to put a buy box price here of $25 minimum. So from $25. So I'm only looking at listings that are $25 and above. Okay, so think about how the cream rises to the top. This is kind of what we're doing here. I mean, you can even go crazy right here and put $50 or $75 or $100. If you're really looking to zero in on a specific niche, this can really help you. The second thing I really love about putting a price here in the buy box is that if an item does not have a buy box because it's been suppressed, then it's going to exclude those items from the results. I personally don't like to sell on listings that don't have a buy box. I don't prefer to sell on those listings. It happens. I understand there are listings that the buy box comes and goes. But overall, why not just, again, take some of that cream that's rising to the top and let's only consider listings that have a buy box and that buy box price is at least $25. Now, when we do that, we will see that our results have dwindled from over 7,200 to 390 products that meet our criteria. 390 products is something I can get through. That doesn't make me want to quit. I can get through 390 products. Now what we're going to do is click on the Find Products button to actually see our results. To see our results, in order to check off this milestone, we're going to choose the columns from Keepa that best fit our needs. We're going to export the results to Excel or Sheets so that we can manipulate that data pretty easily. And we're going to change our rows options to 500, and then we're going to export. And I'll give you a quick peek at what this looks like. When we click on the See Your Results button, you're going to get a large screen of scrolling information of those 390 ASINs that we have whittled our list down to. What we're seeing here is a limited set of columns, my preferred columns. You're going to have to set your own column. But for me, I only have a few things in here. The ASIN, the root category, the current price, the title, the current sales rank, the drops for the last 30 days, drops the last 90 days, drops last 180 days. And then I also include, which is not shown here on this screen, the average buy box price for 30 days, 90 days, and 180. This helps give me some business intelligence around that particular ASIN. Is the price trending up? Is the price trending down? Are the drops trending up or down, etc.? You could also include sales rank averages in here if you wanted to. I find that these columns are what's most useful for me. Now, I'll tell you right here at the top of this little inset, there's a configure columns button, and that's where you would go in and select or unselect all of the columns. By default, Keepa includes almost everything, and you would be scrolling to the right for 2 or 3 days to see everything on the list. The second button over there is called Advanced Filter. And I like to point out here that if you jumped in here and you see your results and you realize that you forgot to set one of your filters correctly, don't hit the back button on your browser, because it will erase all of the settings that you already had in your advanced filter. Instead, hit the advanced filter button here. It will remember all your existing settings, and then you can add new or modify your existing. The third button over, you'll notice, says 100 rows. Well, remember, actually, there's a little bit of a disconnect here. It says 403, so apologies. One of the maths are hard, and one of the items got changed at some point during my original sourcing and when I was doing the export. But because we have over 100 items, I want to change the rows to 500. That's our next option. And then I think it goes to 1,000. So if you were going to put more than 500, then you would want to change it to 1,000. The reason we need to do this is that when we click on the next button, export, it only exports what is on the first page. So if we don't change our rows to more than 100, we would need to perform 4 exports here to get all of the information. And it's just much easier and cleaner and more efficient to change the rows to 500 so we can export everything in one shot. When we click on the export button, we'll get some options about what we want to export. We could potentially export just the ASINs. We could, or we're going to export all the active columns. And this is why I suggest that you customize your column configuration. Then we're going to choose the format. We could do this to a CSV. If we were going to import this into another program, maybe a database or something, I prefer the XLSX, which I know I can open in Excel or Google Sheets. All right, so let's take a look at milestone number 2. I think we're going to check that off right now. We needed to tweak our filters to create an optimized list. We will increase or decrease the buy box price to help refine the number of results. We could even, and I didn't show it in the example, but we could even modify the new offer count to include listings that only have, let's say, 8 active offers on them or 3 active offers on them. I suggest in the beginning removing variations. And then you can increase or decrease the sales rank drops. Now, my goal is to limit the resulting ASIN list to 400 or less. I find that 400 is a reasonable number to give to my VA. If I send a list of 600 over, you can see their eyes sort of glaze over. They're a little less interested in doing it. And so I try and usually keep it below 400, like 380 or 390 or 350, because I know that the process that I give them, that I train them on to do the sourcing, they're going to spend about roughly 1 minute per ASIN on average to see if this is going to be a profitable listing for us or not. Now, I like to source lists of 100 or less if I'm the one doing the sourcing. And so I will find that if I'm doing this myself, I'm really zeroing in on specific brands, sizes, prices, pick and pack fees, etc. And it really is like taking a scope and putting something in the crosshairs to try and identify very specific types of items. If I'm giving this to my VA, I open it up a little bit more and give them various categories, various types of items, brands, et cetera, to try and find profitable items for us to add to our replens list. Next, milestone number 3, we're going to remove categories of items that we don't sell, because we don't want us or our VA to source items that we don't sell, either categories that we're not approved to sell in, for instance, beauty or health and beauty, health and wellness, maybe supplements, maybe over-the-counter medication, maybe there are a number of categories that you may not sell in. And so I suggest removing those from your list. I'm going to show you how to do it right now. We're going to sort the sheet by category, and we're going to remove the items that we don't sell or we don't care to sell. So for example, here I removed, so what I did here was select appliances, books, clothing, shoes, and jewelry, and electronics. And once I had my results down to just those categories, I removed them all from the spreadsheet. And then I'll clear my filter and send that spreadsheet to my VA. This actually removed only about 12 items from the list. So if we were at 390, I'm sending them 378 or so ASINs that they're going to sell now. And that, believe it or not, is checking off milestone 3, remove categories of products we don't sell. Milestone 4, we're going to source the list in 5 hours or so, or have your virtual assistant do it. As I mentioned previously, my VA spends approximately 1 minute per ASIN on average sourcing the item. And it's a very quick Google search. This method does assume that you know how to use Google and potentially Google Shopping, but to put in the title of the item into Google, and if you see the item for sale at a big box store or your regional store on the first page of Google, you're going to automatically know those are going to be the ones that are the most likely to be profitable for you. If the search results on Google start returning results from eBay or results from stores that you don't typically shop at, you'll pretty much know you can cut bait at that point. You're not going to be that successful finding that item at a price that will allow you to sell it profitably on Amazon. Now, I did mention this too. If I'm sourcing the list, I tend to spend a little bit more time than a minute. And this is because I don't cut bait soon enough. And I also have, I bring things into the mix that my VA doesn't. My VA has a very, strict set of rules, guidelines here about what to do. If you've spent if it's been a minute and you haven't found a good source for it yet, move on. Something else on the list will pop up and will be profitable. That doesn't mean that if you spent an extra 5 minutes, you might find it somewhere. But there's a law of diminishing returns. And with all the 300 and whatever ASINs on the list, we can just move to the next one and pretty quickly identify additional ASINs that will be profitable. But the reason I tell you this is because this should give you a great idea about the pace of your sourcing. As an example, when I first started sourcing, I found some rock candy on a stick that I thought was the coolest product I had ever seen. And it sold so fast. I loved the listing. I just fell in love with the listing and I fell in love with the product. And I will tell you, I spent multiple weeks trying to find that product at a price that would allow me to profitably sell the item on Amazon. And it was, you talk about spinning your wheels. I was convinced that if I could find it at X price, I could make, I guess I could become a millionaire with that one ASIN. And that really is not the model of replens. The replens model is the more ASINs you have that are profitable, the more sales you will have, and ultimately the more profit you will have. It's not based on one particular ASIN. In fact, ASINs will come and go. So we like to continually have new ASINs we can add to our inventory every single month or every single week, depending on how fast you're doing this. Because what was profitable last month may not be profitable this month, and you need to replace it with something that is. So don't spend time trying to track down a great source for one item that you really want to sell on Amazon. This is not going to help you become efficient and successful on the platform. Instead, move on to the next ASIN. You can get through approximately 60 ASINs in an hour checking the source. Now, I'll tell you what tends to take the longest time in this process is documenting the information when you have found a winner. So what I like to do is keep documentation of what's the source link, whether that was at Home Depot, Walmart, Target, Meijer, HEB, whatever, and the source price, so that I have a list of basically intelligence, business intelligence I can refer to in the future. But it is very clear whether it's a deal early on or not, or whether we're moving on. Basically, if we don't find results from our preferred shopping stores on the first page of Google, we're moving on to the next ASIN. And this reminds me of a story or a suggestion from a fellow coach of mine, Sue Pruitt, who's these just words of wisdom here. If we're going to be successful selling on Amazon, it's not necessarily that we need to be good at finding items that do make us money. I mean, that is part of it. But the most important part is being able to quickly identify the things that won't make us money. And to that end, we have spent one of the things that we set in the Keepa filters was to remove Amazon as a seller, because if Amazon's selling it, it is usually the number one indicator that we're not going to make money on an item. So by removing a lot of that data, we never even had to look through it. Versus if we just started out reverse sourcing on the Amazon platform, we're going to have to look through a lot of listings that Amazon is the seller on. And then we're going to have to overlook them. And the way we're doing it here is we don't even have to overlook them. We've completely cut them out of the picture. There are so many profitable ASINs out there that we simply can't afford to spend hours trying to source one item. And as a coach, I can tell you, this is a real challenge for a lot of people who are trying to get their business off the ground. They fall in love with an ASIN, they spend hours trying to find it somewhere, and they can't find it, and that makes them want to quit. And so I'm here to tell you, we need to get through these 300 to 400 ASINs over the course of a day or two, and we will find 20, 25, 30, or 35, sometimes even profitable ASINs on the list. There's no need, absolutely no need, to spend hours trying to source one item. Let's talk about some tips and tricks. Some of these are going to be obvious. Others I will share with you as a result of my experience. I found that some profitable ASINs that I've sourced were already on my list. So the solution to that is make sure that if I'm sourcing one of the ASINs I already sell, and I do this quite frequently, is that I remove my store ID from the list that I'm using to pull back ASINs from Keepa. I also like to keep a list of known stores that I don't want to source. So I'm going to exclude them from my store ID list. So not only my own store, but this could be other stores. Also, maybe stores that are very large, and you'll know these stores because they have several hundred thousands of feedbacks, and they could in fact be other store names for Amazon, or they're very, very large wholesale distributors selling themselves on Amazon. In any case, I do exclude those from the list. And I will show you how to do that momentarily. I'll show you again how to do it. We did cover it briefly. I like to consider smaller stores that I may not have sourced previously, or that I only have 1 or 2 ASINs from that I want to fully exploit. And in this case, when I say stores, I mean actual retail stores. So if I have 1 or 2 items that I sell from Tractor Supply, I may want to leverage those ASINs as my seed ASINs to go find more items that I can buy from Tractor Supply that are for sale on Amazon that can potentially have good profit in them. I could also consider competitive analysis in other countries. In the North American Remote Fulfillment Program, we can, if we're signed up for that, sell the items in the US fulfillment centers in both Canada and Mexico. There's a little bit of thought required there, but I think that you could easily leverage some listings that fit that model and try to exploit more. And finally, I think you can expect, I don't think, I can tell you for a fact, because I've been doing this for around 8 months. We have a 5 to 10% success rate on the list of ASINs that I give to our VA. So let's say that I give them 400 and they were 10% successful. I would expect to get around 40 profitable ASINs back from my VA, 20 to 40 if it's 5 to 10% success rate. So this rate can actually increase when you remove some of those known stores that I've talked about previously. So when we remove the big sellers, potentially those stores also that are also known as Amazon or other store names for Amazon, and we focus on stores, seller IDs that have a few feedbacks to several hundred feedbacks to maybe up to 1,000 feedbacks, we will have a much higher rate of success. And then the rate can actually decrease when we're zeroing in. Like I mentioned, the way I would tend to do, I give a list of 400 to my VA, but if I'm going to do it myself, I'm only going to do 100. And guess what? I may not even get 5%. I may only get out of that list 2 or 3 items that I'm sourcing myself, but they are so laser targeted that I'm willing to accept that. It doesn't take me that long. Again, less than 2 hours, and I will have found 2 or 3 very, very profitable items that I'm doing, let's say, merchant fulfill on them, or maybe they're hazmat, or maybe they're big, so we don't want to send them to Amazon. So again, merchant fulfill, or they're very, very high price items. I love to zero in on these things, but I do expect to receive less than 5% success rate on those, generally speaking. So if you want to increase your success rate when sourcing your list, keep a list of the known sellers that you don't want to compete with and exclude their store IDs from your search. Here's a look at what that looks like. In this case, I don't remember exactly which listing this was, but notice that we have Wizotech here as a listed seller that has over 15,000 feedbacks. They're selling a lot of product. They're moving a lot of product. Now they've got 49 feedbacks back in a month. That is something I might consider removing from the list. But a couple of others that I know I would remove from the list is a store named Shipped Fast, a store named Blue Monster. These are stores that I know I've sourced them before and was very less than fruitful. So I do absolutely remove them from my list. All right, well, let's talk about what's next. I think there are a lot of great options for anyone looking to get better adding replens to their Amazon FBA business. First is check out the free My Silent Team Facebook group. Tens of thousands of creative Amazon sellers out there, all super friendly. I can vouch for this. I started there myself. Super nice people, always willing to lend a hand. Definitely check that out. There's also a paid replens Facebook group. You can contact support at Silent Sales Machine to inquire about joining that group. If you're not already a member, the Proven Amazon course, or PAC, it's really access to almost everything ever recorded in the My Silent Team space. constantly updated, lots of great content, just tons of stuff you'll be referring to between, well, for as long as you're doing this journey. And then finally, if you like to get some personalized one-on-one coaching, I absolutely recommend jimcochrancoaching.com. Again, I didn't start here. I had about 8 months on my own before I decided to join the coaching ranks. But hands down, the best thing I did for my Amazon business, no question. There are a couple of things that seem relatively small to me today, but they were absolutely worth the price of admission to get into the coaching program. I love this. Can't recommend that highly enough. Over 7,000 students served thus far. A lot of great options here. We wish you the best success. And with any questions, again, please reach out to the support at silentsalesmachine.com.